happy about that? Okay, then I'm happy for you too. I'm sorry. But if you're happy, I'm supportive.
We're live.
About it later,
We're live.
okay. Well, I
Good
just-
evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this evening's Town of Amherst Traffic Safety Board meeting. Today is February 4th, 2026. First order that we'll go through this evening is just an introduction of who we are. I am Eric Froz. I am the, what am I, acting chairman at this point, since we have to redo elections later this evening. So Eric Froz, acting chairman, and we'll just go around the horn here.
Kara Biddlecom, member.
Cynthia Selvin, member.
Maxwell Khan, member.
Dan Ryder, member.
Kevin Cantwell, board member.
Patricia Dunn, member.
And my name is Mike Sukala. I'm an Amherst Town Board member and the liaison.
Charles Parsons, Police Department. Bill Prunavoo, the Building Department.
Al Spoke, Highway Department.
Chris Schregel, Engineering Department, Traffic Safety Coordinator.
All right, our next order of business to go through is just a review of the December 2025 minutes from the meeting. There was no January meeting, it was canceled. So open the minutes up for review and discussion of any comments, changes, or comments or changes to be made. None being heard, I will make a motion to approve the minutes as written. Is there a second?
I'll second
Second.
it.
Second from Kevin Cantwell. Any further conversation? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes passed 9-0. We have a full board tonight. Well, we're still sure on one. All right, for those that are in the audience this evening, just so everyone is aware, this meeting is being live streamed. So when you come up to the podium, when we open up the public comment, we ask that you speak into the microphone so that you are heard for anybody that is potentially watching online. And that will also help us to capture minutes for the minutes that we just approved from the December meeting. When you come up to the podium, please state your name and agenda item that you are here for. Going to the agenda this evening, we do not go in the order of the agenda. We will go through the order in which people are signed in this evening. And then after you are signed in, after we go through that list, then we will go through the order of the agenda. For anyone that is here for site plan or rezoning, those will be done at the end after we go through the new and old business, even if you are signed in for those particular items. For the meeting this evening, we all received a very large packet this month from the town with all of the correspondence that you've had with the town, any follow-up for old business that the town has provided to us. So when we go through the agenda items this evening, the first thing that we will do is we'll get a little background history from Chris as to the agenda item. We will then open up the agenda item to public comment. As I stated, when you come up, please state your name, speak into the microphone, and your address so that that is all recorded into the minutes of the meeting. From there, you'll be granted 3 minutes to speak on the agenda item that you are speaking on. Remember, we have all the information in our packet, so you do not need to repeat anything you've already gone over. At about 2.5 minutes, we'll give you a single ring of the bell, and at 3 minutes, we'll give you a double ring of the bell to let you know that you're at 3 minutes. After we close the public comment period, after everyone has spoken on the agenda item, we will then have a conversation here amongst the board for any action, just so everyone is aware that's in the audience or watching online. This is not a legal board, but we do not have legal authority on this board. We are an advisory board to the town board. So any action that we take that requires change of law or ordinances within the town, that would go to Council Member Zucala, who would in turn take that before the town board to pass a resolution within the town to make those changes. If there's other items that can be changed through the town liaisons or addressed through the liaisons, they will handle those within those individual departments based on the recommendations of this board. And we will go through your agenda item and let you know what the next steps, next phases are as we close the agenda item out. So everyone is aware as well. Items that will come up throughout the course of the evening that we'll get into a little bit more detail within the items themselves. When you come up to speak, just want to let you know, stop signs are always a conversation that will come up. Stop signs, for your awareness, are a traffic control device. They are to control the intersection, the traffic flow at the intersection. They are not a speed control device. So just keep that in mind if you are speaking on anything related to a stop sign. There are warrants in order to place stop signs at intersections. We will go over those as well if your agenda item is regarding that particular item. This board does follow and is required to follow the MUTCD, the Manual Uniform Traffic Control Safety Device Manual, Manual on Traffic Control Safety Devices. That is a federal document that regulates the roads throughout the country. And then there is a New York State supplement to that as well. So those guidelines that we are required to follow are in that book, and we will reference that from time to time throughout this meeting. There are exceptions to that as well that are defined in the book where we can make other recommendations. Speed is also an issue that will come up most likely in this conversation this evening that we have. Speed control devices such as speed humps, speed bumps, and speed tables are historically been supported by this board. However, before any of those could be installed within the town, that would require town board action and plans within the town in coordination between the highway department and emergency services. At this point, this town has not taken any action to install any of those devices in the town. Pilot streets are always being looked for to try and put a test in place to see if there would be support of those within the town. Other than that, the town posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour on town streets. This board is not able to post signs below 30 miles per hour, other than in school zones where allowed to post a speed below 30 miles per hour in the town of Amherst. That would require town board legal action. There is ways that can be done. So where you see that in the village of Williamsville, that is done by the village. You may see it over in our neighbor's town of Clarence. There is action that's been taken in those towns. At this point, the town of Amherst has not adopted any laws or ordinance to allow speeds to go below 30 miles per hour. With that, I will get started with our first individual that we have signed in this evening, Chris, which is item number 2 for Hartford Road. And I'll turn it over to Chris to discuss that item.
Thank you, Chairman. So the second item is Hartford Road. Hartford is runs up off of Sheridan, curls around, goes through Millersport, and heads all the way to Sweet Home. The portion that's being considered is west of Millersport, all the way to Sweet Home. The request from the residents is for a double yellow centerline pavement marking. Hartford is a residential collector roadway. It's 28 feet wide, 30 miles per hour. It's posted at 6 tons, and there's currently a parking restriction on the north side. There are pavement markings east of Millersport. It's not a double yellow barrier. It's more of a passing zone. We can take a look at that if need be. Again, the request is for a double yellow center line. The intent of that request is discourage passing and improve lane discipline. The request is based on perceived safety and cut-through traffic. This is a concept that engineering department created that represents the request. I just took the most eastern portion of that section. So this is Millersport here, this is Hartford, and I drew in a double yellow center line. That would have to be, given that parking is allowed on the south side, that may have to be shifted. You know, that's something that would have to be considered and discussed if this thing were to move forward. Specific to crash history, there were 11 between Millersport and Sweet Home. None of them were related to opposing direction encroachment or passing. So a double yellow center line, at least for those 3 years of accidents, would not have prevented those crashes. When you look at the MUTCD, Chairman just went over what that was. They do provide guidance on when to do those center line markings. Obviously, it's to separate opposing traffic flows where passing restrictions are needed. Typically, they're based on sight distance, speed, and crash history, and they are not required on low residential collectors. You can also look at the Highway Design Manual. And they refer back to the MUTCD, but they essentially say that they're not mandatory on residential collectors, use engineering judgment, should be based on width, alignment, function, and markings alone do not substitute for taking care of safety deficiencies. Specific to Hartford, it is a residential collector. Like I said, the crash history does not demonstrate there's an issue related to passing, and there may be a reason to consider it based on operational or consistency reasons, considering that there is pavement markings east of Millersport. With that, the Amherst Traffic Safety Board is being asked to consider what markings are required there, or suggested, I should say. Pass it back over to you.
Okay, with that, I will open things up for public comment, and the first person we have signed in on this is David Cowell.
My name is David Cowell. I live at 16 Empress Avenue. Empress Avenue runs off of Hartford. I live 3 houses from Hartford. So I kind of consider Hartford to be my front door in terms of going home. The width of Hartford, there were some numbers up there. The width of Hartford is 3 cars wide. At 3 cars wide, you got to be a little cautious, but they fit. I don't see where you could ever put 4 cars wide. It's not wide enough. There's parking on one side. It appears in the drawing that was up there earlier that the center line is put down the middle of Hartford, which means that if there's any parked cars, every eastbound car would have to cross the center line in order to get around the parked car. If you position the center line down the center, that's very nice on a winter morning when there are no parked cars. If you position the center line to be 2 lanes east and 1 lane west, that seems kind of unreasonable when there's no parked cars, because you're squeezing the westbound people into 1 lane. In the westbound direction, I have frequently observed landscape trucks, delivery trucks, etc. parked, which means that if you put the lane to have 1 lane westbound, I guess I got to take my entire car over the double yellow line in order to get around it. The sign says no parking. It does not say no standing. And the police informed me when I complained about a concrete truck that was parked. The police said, no, he's not parked because the driver is standing on the sidewalk. He is standing. So it's my understanding from the police explanation that the delivery trucks and the lawn service trucks that are parked on the westbound side are legal. But you're going to make me be illegal and cross the double yellow line. So unless you got a double yellow line that has some method of kind of moving around to suit the traffic, I can't figure out where to put it. Because down the middle does not work for me. Giving 1 lane for the westbound traffic and 2 lanes for the eastbound traffic works in the middle of the day, maybe, unless there's a car parked on the westbound side. If the lane could move and have only 1 lane eastbound when there's somebody parked, that would work real nice. I'm not sure anybody knows how to paint a line that moves. Anyway, I haven't heard a proposal that works. I kind of came here to hear what's going on, because if you told me go paint the line, I don't know how to do it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak on this item this evening? None being heard or seen, open up here to the board for further conversation. So with that, the road is painted at 28 feet wide. That you need a minimum width of 10 feet and 8 for a parking spot, correct, Chris?
No, it's more like 8.
Okay.
So you could do a 8-foot parking lane and then 2 10s with a double yellow barrier. But again, that double yellow center line would be offset.
Okay. Right. So since there is parking permitted on one side of the street, there are, I'm not sure of any in the town of Amherst, but I'm aware of them in other towns and places where you can do the offset double yellow line. So you'd paint it 10 feet off one side of the road, and you would have you would most likely need to also paint in a parking lane as well, a fog line, white line on the other side at the 8-foot distance in order to do this, to designate that there is the parking lane that is on that one side to basically shift the entire road out of the center of the road. Understand your concerns that you have with the no parking on the side of the road, that you would have to cross the double yellow line if somebody was standing on that side of the road.
So I'm just going to an example where we do have this. This is, what is that, Saratoga? I think it's Saratoga. There's a church right near Harlem,
Right.
and no parking is on the south side. It allows parking on the north, and it's an offset double yellow barrier.
Yep, it does look a little bit weird. It does look a little bit different, for sure. But I would also say that when you do that, those concerns that you have regarding the vehicle that is standing doing the lawn cutting or something in that lane, that probably does not happen as frequently. They probably pull over to the other side of the road and are faced in the wrong direction or something of that capacity when you're painting the road in this configuration, because if you paint it in this way, the vehicle would basically be stopped right in the drive lane. So there really is no place for a vehicle to park. So it does stop that from happening. Understand delivery vehicles, UPS vehicles, Amazon vans, who knows what those drivers are going to do.
Chairman,
Yes.
sorry. The other solutions that I could think of is obviously a do nothing, a null. But you could also do what you did on the other side of Hartford, which is a passing zone, which would allow parking and then legal passing around those parked vehicles.
Okay.
As you can see, it's restricted here.
I am curious as to why a line was ever painted on the other side of Hartford, but I know we'll never find the answer to that question. Because the other side of Hartford actually probably has less traffic, correct? I mean, actually, I can't say one way or the other. We don't know.
I don't know about that.
It's kind of a lot of traffic coming and going from the Northtown Auto Bureau, or the Northtown Auto Center.
There's
That's
a
right,
lot
I
of
cut-
through traffic between Sweet Home and Millersport.
That's right. I forgot that loops over in that little bend there.
It didn't used to, but it's a recent development, maybe 3 years from now, 3 years.
So open up to the rest of the board for any comments on this particular item and request.
Exactly, what is supposed to be being solved by the double center line? What problem are we addressing? I mean,
You have no accidents.
there's no accidents we're countering. The whole thing is rather, the street is intended to be fluid.
I'm okay with receiving and filing.
Okay with what, Max?
I'm okay with receiving and filing. I agree. I don't think there's a specific indication for it.
I mean, we've heard that Hartford's a problem sometimes during the day with traffic backing up, cut through traffic off of, instead of using Sheridan, they'll use Hartford. We've heard about that. But, I mean, those cars aren't gonna wander. They're gonna stay in the lane waiting for the signal.
Okay, so Max, is there a motion to receive and file?
Sure.
Motion from Max to receive and file. Is there a second? Second it. Okay, second by Nick. So with that, the motion before us is to receive and file this item, indicating the board is not sure what the reason for the placement of the double yellow line is. There does not appear to be a safety-related concern since there is no accident history in this area. There appears to be some resident opposition to it as well. And there's also concerns as to how you would actually paint it and install it based on the road width that exists. So with that, the motion before us is to receive and file, meaning that the item would be filed and closed until such time that another request is made in this area for review. With that, any further conversation? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 9-0. So with that, basically this item has been received and filed for the record, and would not move forward at this time. With that, our next item that we have someone signed in for, Chris, is item number 4 on the agenda, which is Lamont and Longmeadow.
All right, Lamont and Longmeadow. Again, this is in Eggertsville, Southwest Amherst. Excuse me. So a resident is requesting the installation of an always stop. There is an existing stop control present on Lamont Drive. It's stop controlled. Longmeadow Road is currently uncontrolled at this intersection. That would be considered the major. This is a residential neighborhood. It's 30 miles per hour. The width is 30 feet wide. And again, Longmeadow's a collector roadway. This image or slide was provided by the resident as part of his request. You can see he's pointing out that there's already a stop sign here on Longmeadow. And he's saying that stop controlled on Lamont. And he's asking for additional stop control here. Came from a resident living near the intersection. He's observed multiple crashes and near misses. He says the drivers are assuming this is a four-way stop. Further saying that drivers going eastbound see the Six Corners traffic signal, and they see that it's green from a distance away. And this is spelled incorrectly, but and then they accelerate through that intersection to try to make that light. Again, back to his diagram, proximity is here versus the signal here. If you pull up Street View or go out there, you can see that the signal, you can see that on the eastbound approach. When looking at the crashes specific to this intersection, there were 4. Only one was related to traffic control or unclear driver behavior related to the who has the right of way. The others were related to somebody killing a dog, somebody hitting a parked vehicle, and there was an impaired driver hitting a parked vehicle. We asked that the highway department collect counts. Thank you, Al. They went out there prior to the cold weather and were able to do a weekly count for all legs of that intersection. Obviously, Longmeadow is getting, at its peak, about 390, I'll say about 400 vehicles per hour going in both directions. Lamont's peak is only 30. So when you put that in the criteria, which I did provide in your package, it falls very short of meeting the minor leg approach stop sign warrants for a multi-way or all-way stop. That 30 number per the book should be 200 per hour. It does meet the major, where it's supposed to be 300 per hour. As you indicated early on, Chairman, the stop signs are intended to designate who has the right of way and not for speed control. Overuse of stop signs can lead to driver noncompliance. And then you may also use engineering judgment based on warrants and other factors. Again, crash history and warrants do not support an all-way stop. Traffic Safety Board we need a recommendation from this board to determine if additional traffic safety measures are needed or any other suggestions you have to clear up the confusion brought forward by the resident. Pass it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. With that, we'll open up public comment. And Eben Piazza, would you like to speak?
Hello. This is cool. I like this. Very official. Yeah, so I'm Eben Piazza. I submitted the request. Thanks for including my slides. So I live on the corner of Longmeadow and Lamont. I work from home. In my office, I observe that intersection 8 hours a day. I understand the data, and thanks for gathering that. I did have a question. So it was 30 cars on Lamont, and you said it would need to be 200 cars in order to have a four-way intersection stop?
Per the book, yes, that's correct.
Okay, so that's much lower. Yeah, I agree with all that. The six-way intersection at Millersport, Eggert, Longmeadow is intense. So I understand it's based on the data and the guidelines, and not how people feel. But I do think that there is a perception or a feel when you're, because you can see the light, and that light is a longer duration. So, because I watch it 8 hours a day, and myself maybe was guilty of it too. But you don't want to get stuck at that light. So I think people can see it, and then they accelerate, maybe not paying attention. And I think coming the other way too, people make the light. I understand it's not a speed control. And then the side streets off of Longmeadow, there's many of them have stop signs. So again, it's not based on feel, but it feels like, hey, I've just gone through several four-way stops. I feel like this should be a four-way stop. And I think that leads to confusions. And on November 12th was the accident that I witnessed, and then I was like, let me see if it's warranted. And because I went out and helped the kid, he thought that the person going the other way was supposed to stop. So clearly it was wrong. It's not a four-way stop, and if it's not every week, it's every other week where I'm working, look out the window, hear the horns. I don't see the whole thing, but people are stopped and there's near misses. Yeah, I agree. If the data doesn't support it, then doesn't support it. I don't know if this is I know it's a thing that I've seen other response, but the cross traffic does not stop if putting.
You're fine.
Sorry.
30 seconds.
We got 30 seconds more.
Putting a cross traffic does not stop on Lamont would be warranted, because then it would prevent people from expecting people along the meadow to stop. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
What did you guys do before Google Street?
What's that?
What did you do before Google Street?
What do we do before speed counters?
Nothing.
That was. I can add some context, Chairman, if you want, specific to Rosedale and Longmeadow.
Sure, hold on one second. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak this evening on this agenda item?
I didn't really come to speak on this item, but I wanted to add the comment that I'd love to hear the traffic count when the traffic on the 290 by the blue water tower is backed up. Because Lamont's my best way out, Lamont southbound. I have a feeling that during that brief hour or a couple hours, the traffic count goes well above the 30 that was read on the standard average statistics. And if the blue water tower is not backed up, the 30 is probably accurate.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? None being heard, we'll close the public comment period and open it up to the board for discussion. So Chris, you had more context for us.
Yeah, so the resident is correct that the intersection of Rosedale and Longmeadow, just to the west of the subject intersection, is all-way stop. You'll note that there's crosswalks on all legs. This is part of the intercampus bike route, and that is quite possibly the reason that was stop controlled, as there's signage that indicates that is really the way for, back and forth bike routing between UB North Campus and UB South Campus. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Open it up to the board for discussion here.
I kind of like the idea of the cross traffic does not stop. There's no harm in it. It does prevent the it would prevent the problem of people from Lamont, like, moving when they shouldn't be moving because they're aware there's cross traffic does not stop.
So that's the subplaque that you will see under some stop signs in the town. I'm just gonna say I'm on the fence if it's warranted in this particular intersection. I understand the residents' complaints, but looking at the traffic counts that we have showing the 30 and the fact that we have one accident in a 3-year history as reported by the police reports that are available, that would be actually related to the traffic control at the intersection. Normally, we would reserve the placement of those signs throughout the town so that they're not ignored and commonplace all over the place, to install those in intersections where we actually have an accident history related to the traffic control devices at the intersection.
Well, my sense is that there's a lot more near misses than actual accidents. And there's probably a lot of unreported accidents too.
I'm one person. Just my take on it. We talk about sign pollution within the town and the number of signs that we put up.
Well, that is true. I mean, if you go by some schools where.
It is. That would just be my take on this particular one, with only one reported.
This is the other one in that immediate area is Maynard and Hendricks. This was brought before the board a couple years ago, and there was a lot more accidents than just the one, if I recall.
So I'll just ask, Kevin, are you making a motion for the installation of the subplaque?
Again, I'm very much aware of the sign pollution situation, but even if it saves one life, it's worth it. Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion for subplaques. What is on Lamont? No, cross traffic does not stop. Subplaques on Lamont, to make people aware.
So motion by Kevin, is there a second? Second by Helene. Any further conversations on the item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. So does that make it 8-1?
8-1.
Okay, motion carried 8-1, so we'll refer that to Highway for installation of the subplaque at Lamont and Long Meadow.
Both directions.
Both directions, yes.
They do what, north and south?
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
Long Meadow
on
was
those
just west.
stop signs on Lamont on both signs. Okay, so with that, that item is closed, or I should say closed for this board meeting and sent to Highway for installation of the subplaque sign.
So Evan, we'll keep you copied on all the correspondences to the Highway Department asking for that. And then it's just up to the Highway Superintendent on if he is willing and how that fits into his schedule and his sign crews are able to do it. Yep.
Okay, so with that, we'll move to the next signed-in item, which is item number 4. I'm sorry, we just did item number 4. Item number 1, Palmdale Drive from Maple to 3rd Avenue.
Mhm.
Okay, so item 1, Palmdale, Maple to 3rd. This is a resident concern raised in December 2025. The concerns are related to speeding, stop sign compliance, and reckless driving. He reported that there's failure to stop at the posted signs. There's aggressive acceleration, especially during the evening hours. And he's reporting that there was a near miss involving a child at a stop-controlled intersection. This is a map of the stop signs in that, I don't want to say area, I'm going to say Palmdale itself. extending from Maple to Third. Everything aside from Maple is an all-way stop. Resident identified compliance concerns specifically at Bryan and Fifth. The stop sign placement was reviewed as part of the study. Looks like when we did traffic counts, daily volume is close to 1,200 vehicles. That would be on Palmdale itself. Peak volumes were in the afternoon and early evenings. And let's see here. The 85th percentile speed was 32 to 33 miles per hour. The majority of the vehicles are traveling between 26 and 35. There's limited instances of vehicles traveling over 40. The resident indicated that there are school buses reported along that corridor, and the street itself has potential to be a cut-through. Given the volumes we're seeing on Palmdale, that does indicate that it's most likely being used as a cut-through between arterial roads, that'd be Sheridan and Maple. We looked at a crash review of the past 3 years for that entire corridor. There were no crashes on Palmdale related to stop control. There were a couple crashes on Third, but they weren't related to stop signs. They were like driveway type accidents or crashes. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board. You guys should have a full information in terms of the counts in your package.
Thank you. With that, we'll open it up to public comment and Nia Kapoor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Neha Kapoor. I live at 176 Palmdale Drive. I'm a new resident to Buffalo, New York, and my house is in the corner of Bryan and Palmdale. I have 2 small kids, and I'm very concerned about how much traffic that goes along. If you see on the map, a lot of people have been, I think, avoiding the red lights on transit and use this road as to pass through. A lot of teenagers I have personally noticed, would just drive through, blaring music at night, especially after 9 p.m., sometimes motorbikes. Definitely a nuisance. I also think a lot of people, I'm a real estate agent, I'm sorry, on the side. There was a house on our street that was available for sale, and the only reason the clients walked away was the amount of traffic and how the speeds are being seen. Although on the map it shows it's 40 miles per hour on an average, or I'm sorry, 32 to 35 that people are going. But remember, this study is done, I believe, in December when it's already snow, it's already pretty cold. So people are not driving as rash as they do in the summertime, where it's sometimes completely empty during the evening hours. I'm sure if you do the study again in summer, you'll have different numbers. So I'm asking, basically the stop sign looks suggestive at this time. I don't see many people at all following it. Like I had mentioned, there was a near miss of children. Right across the street are apartments. A lot of children come out in the evening, although most traffic does not go that way. But a lot of time people try to cross over to go for walks and whatnot. My own kids, one time I had to walk through. I'm scared of letting them out just because if they run towards the street and they're toddlers, then I don't know which car is going to stop or not. So I'm asking if there's anything else you all can do. Some of the things I could think of was installing cameras, maybe issuing some tickets, just to let people know that this is not a freeway, especially during evening hours when people are sleeping and everybody's passing through. I don't know if you had mentioned, we don't know about the speed indicators, if they are any effective. I am open to whatever you all think would help to minimize some sort of traffic, especially for people who don't even live there, who cut through. And I think on this particular street, I have 2 other issues, but maybe that's for a different time. We're probably just addressing this one because there's a street light that is definitely needed on Bryan. Potentially from that, yes, that is my only take. Whatever you all think is best, I don't know how honestly this whole thing works. So I'm pretty new to this. And yeah, I'm just here to, let you all know that this is a very, very big problem. And most people living there do not, I guess, don't know how to address this. We have raised some concern with my neighbors and whatnot, but there's not much they know what to do. So I'm kind of voicing their voice in a way. I mean, voicing their concerns. So that's all. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item this evening? None being heard or seen, I'll open it up to the board here for further comment and discussion. All right, you guys are all going to let me talk on this one.
Yeah, I was going to say, unfortunately, to me, it seems like most of the issues are something that we can't deal with. We would refer to the police, perhaps, to do more patrols. I mean, as concerning as it is there really anything that we as a board can do?
Chairman, we have had a complaint open since December 13th. We've been out there 10 times. It is an ongoing issue. We've written 10 tickets and given 8 warnings, most of which are for stop signs. There has not really been a large issue with reckless driving or speeding that we've observed. However, it is definitely an issue with stop signs. The best we can do is just keep it on our ongoing complaint issue, but unfortunately, there's streets like this throughout the entire town, so we can't be there each day. I think it probably falls under the instance of unwarranted stop signs that were placed in there. There's very little traffic coming off of Bryan or Fifth, and I think the people traveling down Palmdale know that, and that's why they are not stopping as much as they should be.
Thank you. Thank you for the enforcement over there to address the issues. I'm just going to add a little further context to this particular neighborhood and this particular item. I've been on this board for far too long. But this is a particular neighborhood as a whole. Chris, I don't know if you want to zoom out for the entire neighborhood that we have in this particular area. That whole neighborhood has been a consistent issue that has come before this town board regarding stop sign compliance, stop sign placement, and speed throughout the streets of that particular neighborhood. We did do, I can't reference how many years ago. If we went back through the minutes, I'm sure we could find when it occurred. There were numerous traffic counts done throughout the neighborhood, and it was determined that many of the intersections were stop sign controlled in the wrong manner, with the major leg stop controlled and the minor leg allowed to drive through. When the neighborhood was initially built and designed, the thought process behind it was traffic would be moving east to west, but as Transit Road developed and built out, the traffic through that neighborhood now moves more predominantly from Sheridan to Maple, so it's moving north-south rather than east-west. This board did make recommendations on multiple occasions to change the stop signs in the neighborhood to make them be placed in the right direction for the minor leg to be stop controlled and the major leg to be allowed to flow free. There was major opposition from the neighborhood and residents that spoke up during those meetings when those were recommended. The solution was to place these stop signs, and the request of the residents was to place the stop signs that were warranted in the directions where they were, which basically turned every intersection in that neighborhood to a 4-way stop controlled intersection, which this board was not necessarily in favor of, because this is what you now lead to of unwarranted stop signs, speed concerns, people not stopping for stop signs, and the exact concern that now exists in the neighborhood. The solution to fix the problem in this neighborhood is to allow the town to do the correct traffic study in there, count the intersections, do the right placement of the stop signs to remove the unwarranted stop signs. However, I can guarantee you that if this board makes that recommendation to do so, the town will go out, they will do the traffic counts and studies again on those instances. The recommendation will go before the town board, and there will be half of the residents in that neighborhood before the town board in opposition to removing those stop signs. That is what we run into whenever we try to remove a stop sign. So at this point, the solution for this particular problem is continued police enforcement. Can probably guarantee that majority of those tickets that were written were to residents that live in the neighborhood, because that's again where the running of the stop signs come from in these situations, because the residents are the ones that are regularly driving through the neighborhood, know there's nobody at the stop sign, and just continue to drive through those intersections because they go through them every day with no stopped car, nobody else at the intersection. So this is the classic scenario of unwarranted stop signs and the issues that they create in residential neighborhoods. So other than continued police enforcement, that I believe is our only solution to this particular problem, other than the correct actions, which would be to re-stop sign and re-sign the neighborhood with the correctly warranted stop signs. So at this time, based on the speed counts that are there and what the counts show, and even from Captain Pearson's being there, they're not issuing speeding tickets in the neighborhood. This posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour. Police enforcement, you're generally looking for someone to be, you're not going to pull somebody over at 31 miles per hour.
Correct. I mean, each officer has probably their own discretion to use, but I would say most officers are probably looking for 8 miles an hour or more over. But each officer might pull somebody over at a different speed.
Correct. So at this time, looking at the speed counts that we have, there really isn't a place in the neighborhood where you could put an officer to pull over every car that's going, because you really don't have a car that's going at an excessive speed for them to write the ticket. They're writing the tickets at this point for the stop signs. Since they've been there since December 13th and you have 18 vehicles, hopefully it's starting to send the message in the neighborhood that they continue to see the police in the neighborhood issuing warnings and issuing tickets. So you can be picked up.
Sorry, I just have a quick point. So I disagree, because I don't think the police enforcement is the only issue. The sign I was talking about, because I have noticed myself, if you pass through a neighborhood where it's showing you the clear speeds, even if it's not issuing any tickets, it's not camera enforced, people tend to slow down knowing there are kids in the neighborhood and whatnot. So if there was any way we could put one of those speed gauging signs which show what speed you're going, I think that would really help.
So within those signs that have the radar feedback signs within the town, again, we have placed those in certain areas throughout the town.
Yeah, we place them on more like, cut through type roads, Park Club, Brompton, one is going on Casey. Those are like, it's not like residential Palmdale, you know? And then we also reserve them for streets where there's high 85th percentile. Shows right here, we placed this mid-block. Granted, it was in January, but it's 32 miles per hour.
It's 32 because it's January. There's snow. Everybody tends to slow down. I guarantee if I request another study in the summer, you would have different numbers for sure.
So yes, I'm not going to disagree that we'd have different numbers, but we're still, the radar feedback signs that would go up, you would be looking for a traffic count that is significantly higher than 500 cars on the street, so that's still a concern. Also, you would need to have the support in order to place that sign. There would have to be town board support for the funding for that sign. And in addition to that, with being on a residential street, we would have to find the resident that wants that sign in front of their house with the constant light flashing with it and everything that goes along with it.
We can definitely find, I'm resident, I can have it across my street.
But you're also at an intersection itself,
Yes.
so it would not be at an intersection. Need to be at an area where there'd be enough space on a mid-block to catch the car going at a speed. So there's a lot of things that would need to happen within the town that are required to place those signs, and the traffic count on this street alone would not warrant the placement of one of those signs on the residential streets.
I think another issue, I used to go through that area all the time, and there's a limited number of those signs that we have. So given the fact that all of those streets are cut through, I think strategically we'd probably want to put it on the one that has the most traffic.
Yeah.
And I don't know if necessarily Palmdale, or is it Patrice, or you know what I mean, that actually or way up on Fruitwood actually has the most through traffic because the town has a limited number, like we can't put it on each one. And then the same issue would go with, since each of those blocks are what, 200 feet away from each other. If that was an issue, they could just go to the other one where the issue isn't. So I think that is another part of the issue is I don't disagree that it would be a good spot for one. I think that there's just a limitation of there's 8 parallel roads in a row, all of which could probably use one, but the town simply doesn't have the,
No, I understand. And the reason I brought it up because ours is the closest to transit. So that's the first one people take rather than going to Maple any further. I understand that you all have, not so much budget and don't have maybe many signs, but if there was a way, and like I said, this over the year, you will see an increase in traffic because this is happening more and more every day.
So Chris, you just pulled up there, I believe, a speed count from,
Yeah, we get similar complaints on Patrice. It's a straight through shot from Sheridan to Maple. So I just pulled up the counts that we have from 2019. This is Patrice at address 218. That's 1,172. And on your street, Palmdale, very close, 1,195. So it's comparable. But to member Max's point, you're picking one over the other. It's the same volume.
all right, so there's,
I mean, there's anything you all can do, I would appreciate it, but if
at this point, what we can do on here is continue to refer it to police for continued enforcement. The other thing that would be the recommendation that we could look at is
in that case, I would suggest June or May, just because it's peak summertime is when we see a lot more activity. April is still kind of cold and snow still is there sometimes, so that's why I suggest. But whatever you all think.
okay, so please hold on a second. Put a motion before the board for a count to be made at another time. So we need to address that motion that was put before the board before we go any further. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, so we have a second from Dan. Any further conversation on the additional count? I'm just going to say that I will be objecting to that secondary count. We have a count from 2019 that's during a summer period on a similar street 1 block over. And even if we do count and have Highway use their resources again to go out and count, the recommendation after that count is going to be the same as it is today.
Weird.
Any other further comment on the motion? All in,
Actually, I have a comment, but it's not on the
Yep.
motion, please.
so all in favor for a recount as proposed in the, actually, before we go there, Nick, can you just clarify as to when you would want the count done? You said April, or are you looking for spring? Do you want to be specific as April, or do you want just more spring, summer? Okay, so the motion is for a recount of Patrice during May or June on a good weather week. Okay, so all in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
We need to do a count on this. We have, Nick, you're in favor? Max?
I'm opposed.
Opposed.
I'm for.
I'm opposed. 4. Kevin?
Cantwell opposed.
All right, so that puts us at 6 for no and 3 for yes. So with that, we're not recommending a recount in the spring at this time. All right, now we can further conversation.
Yes, just allow me to add, a number of homeowners and homeowners associations and even just people on blocks have approached the town board, or in some cases Steve Floss, the highway supervisor, to put up the signs that you're describing, the radar operated signs. And as a matter of fact, if you go online, you can see that you can buy them. The problem is not buying the signs. They're actually individually, they're expensive, but they're not outrageously so. I think you can get one for less than $50,000. And so if you took up a collection among folks in your neighborhood, you could buy one. The problem is not the sign, it's installing it and wiring into the grid. Those things are very expensive, and that's one of the reasons the town doesn't do that. As a matter of fact, it requires expertise and equipment that we don't regularly use. That's why we contract it out, which is one of the reasons it is so expensive. So I just wanted to share that with folks so you know. We've been approached on that before by other folks, other neighborhoods have said, we want one of these, and they don't understand how pricey it can be. And that's all I'll say. Yes.
And you have to pay to then run the sign, maintain the sign, and
Yes.
everything after the fact of that sign being placed.
And for context, just because we're not necessarily saying yes to a recount in April, that doesn't mean if a new issue comes up or something that's different, you can't bring out something else to the board in the future months. That's just specific to the purpose of this exact motion.
I got a question about Patrice. Does Patrice have stop signs? Because Palmdale does. So it's got stop signs on the way? Okay.
Every street in that
Like you were
area
saying, it's got the
is
Warren Ward stop
four-way
signs. All right.
everyone.
Okay.
This board has multiple times voted in favor of speed bumps, but the town board, specifically, I believe the highway department has, and emergency responders have raised issues with plowing and emergency response. So we routinely vote for them, but that's not something that right now is approved by the town. Where you will see speed bumps is actually in the village, which is a separate entity.
So with that as well, to add to the speed bump conversation, you would be looking for excessive speeds in those streets, which at this point, the counts that we have are not showing speeds that are that excessive. In addition to that, there has been opposition from emergency response and from highway with snow removal. The other concern that comes into play with that is we have had a couple streets where we've had residents at these meetings that have asked for the speed bumps and been in favor of them using their street potentially as a pilot, but there would be a survey that would be done of the residents on those streets, and it would require over 70% of the residents on the street being in favor of the placement of those speed bumps. We haven't hit that number yet on any street of residents being in favor. In addition to that, nobody wants the speed bump in front of their house, because every time that car goes over the speed bump, you hear a thump, 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 thump. In addition to that, based on the configuration of this neighborhood, since you do have majority of the streets from the counts are showing similar speed counts, similar vehicle counts, if you put the speed bumps on one street, all you're going to do is drop the traffic on that street and push it to the other street. So you couldn't just put speed bumps on this neighborhood on one street. You'd have to put them on all of the streets between Maple and Sheridan in order to have the desired effect of the speed bump. So not really an ideal neighborhood at this time for speed bump placement. Yep. So with that, the recommendation at this point is to refer this item back over to the police department, which is already aware of it, for continued enforcement. Is there any other action that the board would like taken at this particular time? So with that, we will close the agenda item for this evening. If you're aware of other concerns or other ideas or other topics, please feel free to reach out to Chris again. We can put on the agenda item again. I think in your conversation, you were also mentioning something about a street light. If it's a street light out, Chris, that's on the Town of Amherst website that you can go to.
When you say,
So Chris, is that on the website as well for streetlights, or is that something to just submit to you for consideration?
yeah, submit it to the engineering department.
Okay. Thank you very much. With that, the next item we have someone signed in for this evening is old business item C, which is Young's Dorshire Square.
This last time, didn't it?
Yep.
All right, if you look in your package and letter C, you'll see an update memo from me. It gives updates specific to the last meeting where you directed my office to do two things. One is to send a letter to DOT inquiring about a driveway sign on Sheridan Drive that the resident referenced when she first gave her request. We had told her that a driveway sign is not allowed in the MUTCD. And she said, well, what about the one on Sheridan Drive? It raised some confusion, and you asked that I reach out to DOT and ask them why that's there. So that letter is in your package and has been sent to date. We have not yet heard a response, but we'll keep the board aware of what that response is should the DOT respond. The second part is specific to providing a concept that allows for a left turn movement into the private development, private residential development. This is not a public street. So coming from Sheridan Drive, this is Young's. I've kind of overlaid on top of the existing aerial a new striping plan, keeping this same orientation at the intersection. Instead of this little gored out area, I've created a center left turn lane, continuing through the driveway, and then ultimately at a spot yet to be determined, it would then converge and go back to the old alignment of how Young's is now. This would allow vehicles to queue inside the center turn lane to turn left into the private development, as well as give some flexibility for people to pull out into that area. Although I do believe that's an illegal motion, isn't it, Captain? To turn left into a center left turn lane? Yeah. Illegal or illegal? Legal. Oh, it is? Okay. All right. So again, gives you relief going in and out. That's all I have to report. And the resident, I believe, is here that can discuss, and she's got some questions about this concept. I did share this with her prior to the meeting.
Okay, with that, we'll open up public comment.
Good evening. My name is Sue Thomas, and I reside in Dorchester Square. From the photo or concept, I'm questioning whether that center lane where the two arrows are right there, just close to where your cursor is, those two, could that be eliminated? I'm concerned that the traffic coming down from Maple towards Sheridan is going to enter that way back farther up north. And first of all, I'm concerned is I don't know who has the right of way in this particular situation where you have left and right turns in the same lane. See the farther arrows up above? If traffic from Maples is already coming down that turn lane, how are we going to get into the turn lane to make our left-hand turn? Who has the right of way in that position? I'm suggesting not having the centers, I don't know how to explain it, the two lower, not there, and the one at the above not there, and just have a dedicated left-hand lane into Dorchester Square. Keep the double turn lane down farther towards Sheridan that's already there. Well, actually, no, it's just a left-hand turn.
And am I
down
able to
towards
ask,
Sheridan. I don't know if I'm explaining myself right.
Yep. So your ask is to keep the double yellow line in place where it is, and on the traffic that would be moving northbound, to have basically extend the 2 lanes of traffic that are on Young's Road currently that yield into one, to basically allow those 2 lanes to continue and yield after the fact, which would give you the left turning lane.
I didn't follow that, I'm sorry.
So you have 2 lanes of traffic currently at the intersection of Sheridan and Young's that merge down to 1 lane.
Correct, one
So-
lane each direction.
So that merges down. So if you were to do what you're asking, basically that turning lane that you're to create a double left lane would basically be extending in that 2-lane configuration, be extending the left drive lane to then turn that into a dedicated left lane and then have the merge afterwards, because you don't have enough space in that area after you do the merge to then go back to 2 lanes. You'd have merging all over the place there.
Or I think that what I heard you say is just a dedicated left into into Dorchester Square. That's it, and rather than the 2 lanes that merge after.
Correct.
So,
Go ahead, Chris.
yeah, so the answer is no. You can't have a dedicated left turn bay into a private development. You can have one for a public street, but a continuous left turn lane is necessary for driveways in public developments.
I guess another question I have, and unless, am I missing some, between Maple and Sheridan, there's no development on the,
No, there isn't.
Out there?
There's 2 streets,
2
but they're
streets.
not developments.
on the other side?
If you keep going up towards,
Oh, yeah, no, I meant on the other side. I mean,
No.
so I think that the arrows in both
That's what I'm
directions is
saying.
kind of,
There's no way you can turn right where those
So, yeah,
lanes are.
Clarifying the memorandum, it says
Yeah.
not shown on the concept is discontinuation of the center turn lane north of Dorchester Square. So it's my understanding, it's not reflected here, but that center lane is discontinued of the
yes.
Yes. But
Also,
she's concerned that people will start queuing in this this center turn lane for Sheridan.
Right, way too early.
Way too early. And that's an illegal movement. I don't want to speak for you, Captain, but you're not allowed to start traveling in the center turn lane to get to a dedicated turn lane. We see it all the time on Sheridan Drive at North Forest. I've seen them ticket there. You're not supposed, so it's an illegal movement that you're,
too far from the intersection.
it's too far from the intersection. I don't think it's too far. It's not going to happen that far back.
I guess my only confusion was why there's an eastward arrow at all. I guess you need to have one, right? Or do you
I
not?
don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
That's just the standard
Got it.
striping for that lane treatment. I don't know if you can just put one down.
Got it.
I mean, you're always supposed to have one at the start. This spacing is probably too generous. We might not need one this soon.
Yeah.
So
Unless,
And the one below that.
Are those white arrows actually going to be painted on the pavement?
again, this is just conceptual. This is not final design. So I don't know where those would end up.
Okay, so hold on, we just need to. Any other comments that you have from public comment regarding this?
Just my concern is who has the right of way when it's got the double arrows both ways? As far as getting into the lane first.
Okay.
I would think very few people would be driving in that lane coming, south? Because there's no,
You have people coming down Maple quite often.
oh, I know they come down, but why would they be going in that middle lane?
Yeah.
There's
yeah,
nowhere
Because
to
if
turn.
they see the left-hand turn arrow going towards Sheridan, they're gonna
That's-
cut in.
I
So
think
hold
way
on,
too-
let's, any other comments on this particular item from resident for public comment?
Not at this time.
So we're going to close the public comment unless there's anyone else that wishes to speak on this item and open this item up to the board. So upon further consideration of this, I think I'm just going to make the motion to receive and file the request, right? So the reason why I'm making that motion is the road is currently painted in a configuration that has shown to us that there is no accident history. In conversation that I had with Chris on this item, Chris, we did look this up. There's no accident history at this particular intersection in the past 5 years. So in discussing this concern right now, we're raising other issues of concern that could become a bigger concern if you make changes. So we're potentially restriping a road to address a concern that, yes, there's a valid concern of safety making turns in and out of that area, but the traffic accident history shows us that there is no accident history with the turn movements related to that driveway. So I have concern that we're going to basically paint the road and create an issue. In addition to that, we're also looking at painting a road in an area where we don't have a traffic accident history, where if we move further up Young's Road to the intersections of Hershey and Quantico, I don't know what the accident history is on those two streets in particular, but I know for sure from driving through there that there is an accident history at those two particular streets. There's a guardrail that's in place to keep cars on the road from going into the ditch based on accidents that have been there. The town has taken action to add right and left hand out of the neighborhood in that particular area, but we still are not even at a point of installing a turning lane at those intersections where we have a rear end and traffic accident history. So we're potentially painting a road in an area where we don't have a traffic accident history, where there's other sections of the road where we do have an accident history that's not being addressed. So I'm in opposition to making changes at this particular point, and therefore I'm making the motion to receive and file the request for painting changes at this particular intersection based on concerns that have been brought up just by the drawing being made of what it would potentially lead to in confusion.
I second that motion.
Hold on 1 second. So there's a second from Cynthia. So with that, go ahead, Dan. Open up for further conversation.
Are we gonna wait and see what the DOT says about the driveway side?
We can still wait and see what the driveway sign feedback is, yes. We'll get that in our packet to see if those signs can be installed. But the receive and file the request for the striping. Any further conversations? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 9-0 to receive and file the striping changes. Any other further conversations on this item?
I guess we hold and see what the DOT says about that driveway sign, right?
Yes, so we'll wait for the feedback from the request to DOT on the placement of the driveway warning signs. Any further conversations? None being heard, we'll close item number C for this evening. With that, we'll move back to the new business section. We have nobody else signed in this evening for new or old business, just confirming nobody is signed in for those items. With that, going back to the new business, item number 3, Eggert Road is next on the list to review.
We're on 3, Chairman?
Yeah, 3.
Okay, this one is on Eggert Road. It should be familiar with you. You reviewed the same section, I think, in November. This was for a different matter, though. The resident is requesting a mid-block crosswalk and pedestrian actuated device. Eggert Road is a county highway. It's 35 miles per hour posted. The 85th percentile, as counted last year, ranged between 39 to 40 miles per hour in this section. The request is in the area of a school on the opposite side of Stonecroft. It's a county arterial roadway, carries 11,300 vehicles per day. A sidewalk is present on the east side only. There's no continuous pedestrian facilities on the west side. The resident lives on side streets on the west side. I'm sorry, residents who live on the side street on the west side do not have a pedestrian route available to walk to nearby schools, not only the school across the street, but also St. Ben's, Amherst Middle, Amherst High. This is a map showing the area of the request. Green indicates a pedestrian route that's sidewalked. Anywhere that's not green, green does not have a sidewalk. A marked mid-block crossing relies on connected pedestrian networks. Since there's no sidewalk or pedestrian destination on the west side of Eggert, it makes it difficult to put in a crossing. The crossing would direct pedestrians into grass or driveways, and the MUTCD discourages any type of crossing without a sidewalk. With 11,000 vehicles and that high 85th percentile of 40, it would be, again, pretty dangerous to have a mid-block crossing that's uncontrolled. As such, there is guidance specific to RRFBs. That's a rectangular rapid flashing beacon where it's pedestrian actuated. In order to have that, there are specific criteria, and you need to have an established pedestrian route. There has to be a funneling of pedestrians. There has to be a minimum of 20 pedestrians crossing in an hour. And it's unwarranted without those supporting pedestrian volumes. The county says, well, it's the town's responsibility to study and give a recommendation, but ultimately the county retains approval authority. And just to remind you, the Traffic Safety Board did reach out to the county and ask that that road be striped with edge of lane or fog lines along the sides of the road, and they agreed to that. At this point, we're looking for your direction on whether to pursue additional further action. I'll pass it over to you.
Okay. That will open it up to the board for discussion.
We can't put a mid-block crosswalk to nowhere. Right.
It would be a mid-block crosswalk. I agree. It would be a mid-block crosswalk to no place.
Yeah, we would need to give pedestrians a spot to walk. I mean, we can always put it in for sidewalk extension, but I don't think a mid-block crosswalk is appropriate at this time. If they were to approve something later on, we can, revisit, but.
Don't know which street you would put it at. We need to do more study on that as well. I would, at this point, based on the request for the fog line that's already there for the painting reconfiguration, I would hold on.
Yeah, let's see how the fog lines control traffic diet the road. Because the whole idea behind the fog lines is to create the traffic diet, which in theory will, and actually in practice does reduce speed. I say receive and file until such time as we can make a better assessment after the fog lines are installed.
Or a response.
Or maybe revisit it, maybe put some counters out proactively.
So what you making a motion to receive and file, or are you making a motion for counters?
I'm making a motion to receive and file.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to receive and file, second from Kara. Any further conversation? I'm just going to add that we should receive and file. We're not currently holding anything on this. No, we're not holding anything. We're just waiting for a response for the request for the fog line, correct? We don't have a response from the county?
No, it's actually in your package as an FYI. They positively responded that they will put in the fog line.
When the next middle of the street. No.
How did I miss that?
So I think it's a good idea to do a before and after study to see if that makes any impact on the prevailing speeds.
Yeah, there it is.
Have we done the before study?
We have.
Yeah, I thought we had. So we should probably revisit this with another study after the fog lines are installed, whenever that is.
Okay, so receive and file until such time fog lines are installed by the county. That's the motion before us. And there's a second from Kara. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 9-0. Next on the agenda is item number 5, Innsbrook, South Castle Rock, Running Brook intersection.
All right, so item 5, Innsbrook, South Castle Rock, Running Brook. Resident is made a request specific to the stop sign placement that's already there. The stop signs are located on Innsbrook and South Castle Rock. Running Brook does not have stop signs. Concerns are related to vehicle speeds and how the intersection overall operates. Apparently, there's some confusion there. There's presence of young children, and again, the request is for consideration of an additional stop control at that intersection. It is a four-legged intersection. That south leg of Running Brook serves a dead end or no outlet roadway with one driveway. There is a question that remains on what exactly is the major versus minor. This request came in pretty late during the cold spell, and we were unable to place counters prior to this meeting. If this item is held, we're happy to do that when weather warms up. And the existing stop control may not align with the roadway function. So this is a map of the existing stop sign configuration. Again, transits to the east, and all these other stop signs make sense, but you guys are really looking at this one. That's the subject area that's on the agenda tonight. So again, it's stopping Castle Rock, stopping Innsbrook. There are no reported crashes in the last 5 years. Engineering considerations, misaligned stop control can contribute to driver confusion. Relocation of a stop sign or adding a stop sign for that matter would require volume data that we currently don't have. And tonight, if you want to just take a look at it and see if additional study is warranted, or if you have any early suggestions or recommendations. With that, I'll pass it back over to you guys.
So Chris, can you pull up Google Earth or Google Maps of the Can you zoom out actually? Because there's the dead end stub street that's there that most likely was put in for further development potential to the south. Since that apartment complex has been built into that area, the creek is there. My assumption is there's no possibility of further development to the south.
I'd have to refer to the planning department on that. I don't know. Greg, do you know what the intent was for that substrate, and if the intent is no longer feasible given the development that's occurred in close proximity?
And I guess from the stop control diagram, when the stop signs were placed, they were placed there with the intention that there would be future development to the south. That hasn't occurred, which would be the reason why those stop signs were placed the way that they are. Based on current design of the neighborhood, the stop signs are probably placed in the wrong way based on the way the street is currently being used. We're not going to have support of the residents to remove stop signs or change those stop signs to the correct configuration. We can propose changing them if we get the counts that warrant the change, or we can receive and file. I guess what I was looking at is future development to the south, if it makes sense to keep them or try to remove them.
I think in the meantime, the prudent move would be just to make sure with a count whether or not it's the major and minor leg. Resign is necessary, and we can't just keep the signs like that indefinitely for the fact there might someday be development. If there is, then we can reassess and switch them back. But in the meantime, we shouldn't make a decision without counts.
I would agree with that. So Max is recommending that we refer this to highway for counts at the intersection to validate or confirm the major and minor leg of the intersection and hold until we have the count. Is that correct, what I'm reading from you, Max? Any opposition, further comments? Okay, so
I live on all, so, up there, so. I don't get. I favor stop signs, but in this particular case, I don't get why or where this person is lacking a stop sign. I don't know, I just need somebody to point on the map where the stop sign is missing.
they're asking,
The traffic there is pretty slow, so I don't know, all places have requests. The stop sign,
so they're,
I don't really understand this.
yep, so my understanding is that they're looking for and asking for that intersection right there to be turned into a four-way stop control or changing of the configuration because people are not stopping for the stop signs
Yeah.
as it is because one side of that intersection, one side of that is a dead end. Right, but they're still running, they're still running the stop sign. So really, since Inbrook Lane is a dead end, it should be teed as almost as a dead end street with Running Brook having the stop sign instead of Innsbrook and Castle Rock. That way the traffic coming into the neighborhood on Castle Rock would be able to go straight into the court without stopping. Right now what's happening is nobody is stopping anyway because there's no traffic there.
And adding more stop signs is gonna add more stop signs for them to ignore.
No, I don't think we're saying add more. I think we're just saying
We're
switch
saying,
them.
we're
That-
saying
yeah.
ideally we want to switch it and put it the way that it should be based on the,
But let's get a count before we commit to that.
wooden,
But we still technically still need the counts to confirm which one is the major and the minor. And once we have the data, then we can make.
What the count's gonna show is that the major leg has 30 cars and the minor leg has 12.
potentially yes, but we need to confirm which is the major, which is the minor.
I mean, that's gonna say we should.
Yeah, but there's always there's always
Let's
technically.
get a count first. Let's get a count.
We get the count, we
Due
confirm it,
diligence, get the count, then we'll figure it out
then we make the recommendation to change
or remove.
or leave.
So if this were to come to us as a new subdivision, Elaine, just like this, if this were to come to us as a new subdivision, just like this, it's a T intersection, and we always stop control the bottom leg of the T. So that's kind of what the board is saying, that it should be like this. Because it really serves as a T, because the dead end serves one driveway. That's kind of what they're saying.
But let's get the count, we'll figure out what to do.
But from most likely from from the original site plans proposed, that Running Brook Lane was supposed to continue south with the assumption that that would be the major leg of the intersection with traffic coming through, going to the next phase of the neighborhood, which is not there, not probably ever going to happen, which now has this intersection because of how it's actually being used, stop controlled in the wrong manner. So we want to confirm that, and if so, then make the recommendation to change the stop signs and configuration to improve the safety of the neighborhood. Okay. All right, so with that, we can close item number 5 on the agenda. And that takes us to item number 6, the election of officers. The first item that would be voted on as the election of officers would be for the chairman of the Traffic Safety Board. As acting chairman, I'm going to make a motion to suspend the meeting and turn control of the meeting over to Cynthia, who is the acting vice chairman, who at that point will host the election for the chairman position. So I'll make that motion to suspend. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second by Kevin. Any further conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Cynthia, the meeting is now yours.
Thank you. I didn't know that was going to happen. Great. So we have to pick a chairman, and I personally would like to nominate Eric to be chairman yet again. Do I have a second on that?
Absolutely.
Um,
So you have to ask
do-
three.
For any other nomin,
You have to ask three.
Yeah, you have to ask it 3 times. You have to ask it 3 times. Going once.
So, are,
oh, is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? All those in favor of making Eric chairman again, say aye. Those opposed? Now I nominate that I close this meeting out and turn it back over to the chairman. All those in favor?
Second that.
Oh, second. Second from Kevin. All those in favor? Aye.
Congratulations. Thank you. So with that, I will make
15 yards illegal procedure.
I will now make the motion to a nomination for vice chairman and will nominate Cynthia to continue as vice chair. Is
Nobody second.
well, no, we actually don't have to second.
Oh,
I'm nominating Cynthia. Cynthia, would you accept the nomination? That's the question.
oh, sorry. Well, it's bad.
Too bad.
No, I do not accept the nomination. I have a nomination myself. Somebody.
Cynthia rejects the nomination as vice chairman. Is there any other nominations for vice chairman?
I'd like to nominate Carrie for vice chairman. Kara, sorry.
Kara, do you accept?
Can I wait and see if there's a? Yes, I will accept.
Are there any other nominations for vice chairman?
I'll nominate Max.
Okay, so we have a nomination for Max. Max, would you accept?
No, I'll decline.
Declined. Are there any other nominations?
Yeah, I nominate Cynthia.
Cynthia already declined.
Oh.
Cynthia's already declined and Max has already declined. So
We
they
can't
can't
play-
be nominated.
So we can't play tennis on this one?
Nope.
Oh, crap.
Are there any other nominations?
No, it's okay.
I'll make a nomination for Nick Alperio. I'll accept. Nick will accept. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? So with no other nominations, we have 2 individuals nominated and accepted. We have Max and we have we have Nick and we have Kara. So with that, we will do a roll call election on this so that we have it clear. And we will start on this end of the table. Colleen?
Kara.
I'll go with Kara.
Sure. I'll go with Nick, since I nominated him. You can abstain, or you can vote for your opponent if you'd like to.
I vote for Kara.
I'll vote for Nick.
And Nick? Okay, so with that, congratulations, Kara. You have 5 votes, Nick has 2, and we have 2 abstain. So with
Good luck.
that, for our next meeting, we'll stay in the format that we are in now. For our next meeting, I'll be chairman and Kara will be vice chairman, or vice chairperson.
Vice chair.
Congratulations. With that, I will ask if there's any other new business to be brought forward before the board from anybody on the board.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Driving around this weekend, this is completely proactive at this point. But driving around this weekend, that new 7 Brew at what, Maple and Bailey? There was a line 20 cars long all the way back to Wegmans waiting to get in. Let alone the 10, 15 cars that are already in line. No one's complained about it yet, but you can be sure somebody will. If not now, when Costco goes in.
We've gotten dozens of
There's
complaints
been plenty
about it.
of complaints.
It's new. What's,
We approved.
I have not, I'm not a coffee drinker, I don't know.
It must be good.
The biggest complaint is about the traffic congestion. Traffic congestion is not a violation of the law. When people are blocking intersections, we can take action there, but stacking up the cars in the left turn lane to wait to get into the lot is, there's nothing we can do about it.
Now, against this, I happened to drive by that intersection either a couple days ago at 10 a.m., prime coffee time on a weekday. No, they had 6 cars in line. It was just like a Tim Hortons. It was minimal. It was regular coffee service. So I think this is a weekend problem based on observation. I don't know. We're going to hear about it. What's that? What, at like 8 o'clock? Because I was there at like 10 o'clock. Okay, is there a problem there too then? Okay. Okay, so you're saying on weekdays there's a problem in the late afternoon? Oh, yeah. Okay. This is all valid information because. Oh, no, it's the right spot because look at their business. So it's the right spot for the wrong reasons. Yeah, right.
Okay, so
I'm just bringing this up to the board's attention because we're going to hear about it.
This is the Scotch and sirloin.
The Scotch and sirloin.
Right, and we approved that.
Well,
So Kevin, are you asking for something to be put on the agenda for review of the area for the February meeting, or are you, for the March meeting, or are you just bringing this up as advisory that of concern?
this is advisory because we're all going to need to put our helmets on for this one.
Okay. Any other new items to bring before the board?
Yes, I also have observed a new practice, for me anyway, maybe the police officer can comment on it, between Youngs Road and Clarence Hollow, Clarence Valley.
Sorry, I'm confused. Young's and
Main Street, between Youngs Road and Amherst out to Clarence Hollow in the town of Clarence. I've seen, witnessed while driving my truck, people using the turning lane as a passing lane. And I've seen that in both directions.
Are you
In
talking about on Main
Amherst
Street?
And in Clarence.
You're talking about on Main Street from Young's?
Yes.
Yeah, you can't drive in a turning lane unless it's designated as one direction only. So they shouldn't be driving in there.
They're using it as a passing lane.
Yeah, they shouldn't be using it as a passing lane.
so
It's like parking trucks on those, that's illegal also.
Right.
It's happening.
So you're suggesting enforcement?
So are you just referring that to police for potential enforcement?
Right, you have to catch them. I don't know how you do that.
Okay.
Be the right spot.
Any other new business items to bring before the board? None being heard, we'll close new business. We'll move to old business. Item A on old business, we are still holding pending counts. Item B is also held pending an engineering study, I believe, and traffic study, correct? C, we already addressed. E, bikes and e-scooters. Item D is currently still on hold, awaiting town attorney and highway responses. And item E on the old business is held pending the final report on the engineering study, which we are expecting to have for our March 2026 meeting. So, or do you have
so,
anything on that
Chairman,
change, Chris?
On old business E, I do have the reports that came in today,
Okay.
so I can distribute that. Not looking for any type of comment at this time, but just wanted to give it out while we're here.
So you're going to distribute that?
It's coming out.
Okay.
I mean, this is the final report. You guys have had your chance to provide comments. They do. So they did take a lot of your suggestions and the public's suggestions. They made some changes. So read that. If you guys have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me.
From Greg.
The next step specific to that study is now we formulated an action plan to enter into construction phase, and that's something we're still working on.
So is there any action for this board at this time, or this
No.
is just to go to engineering in the town now for action?
That's correct. This is just to keep you guys in the loop of the study itself.
Okay. Thank you. So that will actually close item E on the agenda. Any other old business to be discussed before this board that's not on the agenda? None being heard, we will close the old business section of the agenda. We will thank the town board member and town liaisons, with the exception of Greg, for attending the meeting with us this evening. And we will move to the site plan section, where Greg will continue to stay with us to go over those. We do have individuals signed in this evening, not signed in, but we do have individuals here for site plan A. I'm sorry, site plan B, correct? Suburban Hospital. So we will address item B of the site plans first before we move into anything else. If you can just give us a minute to reconfigure here, and we will then open that up for discussion. Are you going to pull that up on a board?
Yeah, can you stay for this one quick? Okay.
Same side here?
Sean, you want the main site plan page up?
Okay, for those that are still here in the audience and those that are still watching online, ordinarily, at this point in time, we would kind of be up here as more of a private board, going over the individual drawings, looking at the site plans, reviewing those site plans for what is happening. We do have a presenter tonight for the site plan B to go over what is being proposed within the site plan, give us more information, and then we will have conversation with them as part of our conversation for recommendations to the town on this particular item. So with that, Sean, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Chairperson, members of the Traffic Safety Committee. Sean Hopkins, I'm here this evening on behalf of Collida. Also with me is Dave DeBacco, the COO of Collida, as well as Chris Winkler from the engineering firm of Labella. Basically, I think everyone knows this site very well. We were historically parking at St. Gregory's under a lease agreement. That was for approximately 160 to 175 employees. Chris is going to pull up the plan. Thank you.
This area is in green.
Yep. That lease has now come to an end. And basically, Chris, if you can go to the plan near Bassett, there, thank you. What we're now proposing is gated, and it's important to note gated employee access only onto Bassett. We're basically taking the parking that historically was on leased property off-site. That lease is no longer economically feasible. Moving it on-site and controlling access. And I want to emphasize, there's already a driveway there. It's chained. It's been chained as long as I can remember. There are several benefits, and Chris is going to talk about it a little bit more. But number one, this prevents all traffic from having to exit onto Maple Road, which obviously is the busier of the two roads. Secondly, what we want to avoid is people that work or that live to the north of this site. Keep in mind, because it's Collida, we have employees from everywhere in Erie County and Niagara County. Being able to exit to the north is certainly a matter of convenience. And then finally, and just as importantly as all the other points, anyone who's been to that emergency room, and I went there often when my mom was still here, basically, we don't want that traffic to have to pass by that area. It's actually very important that we keep that as clear as possible. Without this controlled access onto Bassett, basically all of those employees now have to pass directly by the emergency room where we have ambulances, et cetera, a lot of activity, and a lot of activity that obviously, that means that I'm going to let Chris give you a little bit more of the specifics. I do want to note we did provide a traffic impact study prepared by David Cruz of Passero Associates. Chris was kind enough to be involved in the scope of that TIS. So Chris is going to talk about that very quickly. And then Dave, who's very familiar with the operations at this location and the reasons why we're pursuing this, is also available to answer any questions. So with that being said, Chris?
Thanks. Yes, and the project is Chris Wickler from LaBelle Associates, our Buffalo office. The traffic study was performed by David Cruz, but he's now at LaBelle Associates, formerly at Passero. The recommendations in the traffic study was that there would be no impact on the level of service, and we're not adding any new trips to the highway system. There's 160 to 175 employees that park at St. Greg's Church currently, and those would just shift over. So we're not adding any new trips onto the system. It'll just be a shift to where they enter there on MacArthur Drive. One other thing with the gated entrance, we'll have automatic gating control. It'll be for employees only, and we can control that, and that will be controlling exiting and entering. So,
And that was suggested by the planning department.
and that was something that was suggested. So we'll be able to control that automatically, that only employees can enter. That way it's not free for all entering and exiting. Again, the recommendations of the traffic study was very, very minimal impact. It had no change to the level of service, because as you can see, we're just shifting it over to where that MacArthur Drive is. And we figured cars would come off of Maple, would still enter and exit on Maple, and the same for Bassett Road. One thing that's also interesting is the way that timing worked. It's under minor site plan review. There was a previous project that we have on the property that had minor site plan approval, and that's still in effect until June 2026. So on the drawing stats, most of the work that's shown is for that prior minor site plan approval, and this, we just added the gated entrance there on MacArthur. I think that's pretty much it for the traffic study.
The other thing I want to know, Dave can chime in on this as well, is unlike probably how hospitals historically operated, the shifts are not the traditional shifts, meaning there's now people coming and going at all times. It's much more staggered than it would have been historically. So at no given point in time will there be a tremendous amount of traffic leaving or coming in at the exact same time through that controlled access. And I think the key to this whole project is the controlled access. This is literally for employee only. Again, it's going to reduce traffic impacts on Maple. It's certainly convenient for those employees traveling to the north. And Dave can tell you every single day he's asked what the timing of this is. So it is a super important project to Kaleida. And again, if you have any questions, we would welcome the opportunity to address them.
How many employees are at the hospital?
Total employee count. Yeah, sure. Yeah, Dave DeBacco, Chief Operating Officer at Suburban. Good evening and thank you. About 1,500 employees in total are employed at Suburban, working across multiple shifts, multiple days of the week. And that includes full-time, part-time, and per diem employees as well.
So just, you're putting in a gated, you have a parking lot currently that was being leased over at St. Greg's where you're using approximately 170 parking spots.
Correct.
You're now putting in a gated access for employees only. Will that gated access be restricted to 170 employees, or will all 1,500 employees have access?
It'll be restricted to those employees that request access. I can tell you that the majority of the employees that parked at St. Greg's that have also requested access to this Bassett Road through our request here tonight, they all exited out to the north already. There is no gate on getting onto Bassett Road off of St. Greg's Way. So employees who parked in St. Greg's would simply go out, make a left, and go down Bassett. Now that they're parked in the hospital site, there is no availability for them to exit out to the north. And so now everybody is exiting out onto Maple. So
we have confirmation that all 170 cars that are currently parking at St. Greg's, none of those cars are ever exiting out to Maple.
No, I didn't say that. No, not at all. I mean, the folks who want to exit out toward Bassett parked in St. Greg's because they knew they could get out to the north. And so, no, I'm not suggesting at all that 170 cars all went out toward Bassett. It's probably the vast minority went out Bassett. Still, the vast majority go out Maple Road.
So any employee at Suburban would be able to request access for that gate.
Request access, we can certainly talk about if there's concerns about limiting it, we can certainly talk about limiting it because.
Where I'm asking the
Sure.
question is, we have 170 parking spots now. We have 1,500 employees in the parking lot, and we did a traffic study based on how many parking spots are we adding?
We never have 1,500 in the lot at one time. We don't anywhere
Just
close to
hear me
that.
out here.
Sure.
How many parking spots are we putting into this parking spot? This new parking configuration that we're adding?
So so the lease ended January 1, so we're already parking them back there. And so we've already moved essentially the cars from St. Greg's to in and around 1542. And so that's already been done.
So this configuration here, that we're adding these parking spots back here, that hasn't been added in yet and constructed out.
Correct. That's correct.
That's my question. How many
Okay,
parking
It's
spots
80,
are we?
is it 87? Sean, do you remember?
I believe it is.
Yeah.
And so that's approved, but not yet installed. The goal would still be to complete that project.
So we're,
It's dependent on funding.
It's delayed right now, but eventually we'd like to continue that project, yes.
so what was the reason for leasing the parking spots at St. Greg's? If you're saying that you no longer need them, yet you're still putting in 80 additional parking spots
Well,
here.
So first of all, let me be clear that when we leased the St. Greg's, the 1542 building was a medical office building, which was fully occupied. That medical office building is no longer occupied at all. It is vacant, actually. And so I didn't necessarily add spots. Those spots were there. They just weren't being utilized by our employees. It was just an empty lot. And so really all we did was take an empty lot and fill it with our employees. And
That's the building in back.
yes, that's correct. That's 1542.
That building's empty.
It's empty.
So will that building ever be put into use?
If it ever were to be put in use, and right now there are no plans to put it in use, then obviously we would look forward to adding additional, constructed parking in the back. But right now there are absolutely no plans whatsoever to reutilize that building at this point. In fact, most of that building is completely gutted at this point.
And if that did occur, the town, of course, you have a very diligent planning department. They're going to make sure we install that parking. Again, the previously approved, but not yet installed parking.
So I'm still confused as to the parking spots were being leased over at St. Greg's out of convenience, or as the hospital has expanded over time, there were not enough parking spots available that you needed to have an agreement with somebody for the additional parking
No,
spot.
so when
or-
that building had been occupied.
I'm not,
which it-
that building is fine, right? But
Right,
that,
but when it had been occupied, we needed the offsite parking.
So, yeah. So now that go ahead,
go
Greg.
ahead. Yep, please.
Hi, everyone. Greg Dion, Planning Department. So it's my understanding that when the site plan was approved back in 2006, there were a few conditions related to access and parking. The first one being that the existing chained gate at the Bassett Road driveway be shown on plans submitted for approval. During construction, vehicular access to Bassett Road shall be limited to emergency vehicles and construction workers, hospital employees, personal vehicles, that no construction equipment shall enter or exit the property via Bassett Road. And upon completion of the construction of the proposed improvements, access to Bassett Road shall be limited to its current use, non-medical emergencies. So that doesn't mean, the way I interpret that is not like ambulances. It's for, the fire department to gain access to the property. The other condition that was imposed as a condition of site plan approval was that the approved plan includes the 218 off-site parking spaces leased from the adjacent St. Gregory the Great Roman Catholic Church. So I believe what's before this board today is you would provide a recommendation to the planning board because they would need to provide relief from those conditions in order to allow the approval of what's being proposed.
So with that, Greg, I'm not sure if you can answer this or not. So what we're saying, if that lease currently has not been renewed with St. Greg's, the hospital's currently not in compliance with the current requirements on the site plan from 2006.
Correct. There is a condition, the condition explicitly states that those 218 off-site parking spaces are a condition of approval for the site plan. So if those are no longer available, if the lease has expired on those, the petitioner would need to seek relief of conditions from the planning board. So I believe that's what the purview that's before this board today is. Do you, would you provide a recommendation to the planning board regarding those two conditions?
So we're removing 218 parking spots that were required in 2006, and we're adding 82?
87.
87. So we're losing roughly 120 parking spaces that were required as part of the 2006 conditions. And we're asking that a gate for a driveway that currently is in place, which basically provides an access road to a residential area, be removed for a hospital that has 1,500 employees that could potentially, there's no way that we'd be able to limit and not give all 1,500 employees access to that gate. I'm sure we won't get into any of that, right? But you potentially are opening up the door that 1,500 cars are exiting the back of the hospital into a residential neighborhood. So I have concerns about that.
I believe part of your recommendation to the planning board could include what you discussed with the petitioner before related to a recommendation to restrict the access to those rear parking spaces that are being proposed to the employees who would specifically be parking in those spots.
And, okay. And as part of the traffic study itself, only the intersection of Bassett and Red Oak was reviewed.
No, and the petitioner can speak more to this. Do you want to?
Yeah. Check the study area.
So while Chris is getting the scope, I want to point out a couple things. And thank you, by the way, Greg, for pointing out the historical basis for those conditions. In 2006, it's important to keep in mind that building was occupied. That parking really was needed at that time.
So whether the building is occupied or not, the building is still on the property.
Yeah, but basically gutted. And
The
again,
building's still on the property.
yes, it is still on the
So
property.
we could do this recommendation and you could come back next month and put something in that building.
Well, but then that's going to trigger the plan department taking a look at the overall parking again. And we acknowledge that. The second thing, and I get your point about there being 1,500 employees, although again, they're not all there at one time. If this committee thought it was advisable to recommend that we limit the number of access cards that we give out to the gate, we're fine with that. We wanted to limit to 170, we have no objection whatsoever.
Let me ask you this, is it the same 170 to 200 people using that spot? I mean, if you were there on
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, it'd be the same people?
Yeah. Generally speaking, it's the same people.
I mean, give or take 10 or 20. It's going to be between 150 and 200 people are going to be, it's the same people.
It's the same people. And I think that would address your concern, Chairman, by limiting the, to a large degree, think about if you work there. I mean, if you're heading anywhere to the south, including all the south towns, generally speaking, you're going to exit Maple. I mean, this is what you're going to do. And I think that is what people do. And if you go back there now, and again, I have been back there because my mom had to go to the ER many times, that parking lot is empty. I mean, there's nothing there. Until now, as of January 1st, that parking lot was just sitting there. So it's not like we have actual parking shortage on site. We don't. And that's why fill in that green space with parking before we're ready? It would serve no purpose. The parking would sit there idle.
So still going back to my other question regarding the traffic impact study, the intersection that was reviewed and there was.
So just refreshing on the traffic study, Hopkins Road and Red Oak was included in the study. Hopkins, Red Oak, and Bassett.
actually says it. So in section 1.2, the study area consists of Bassett Road, the intersection of Hopkins Road, Bassett Road, Red Oak Drive. So that's what we looked at. So those intersections. And again, that was based on input from Mr. Schragle.
Okay, so we didn't give any consideration to the cars that are currently exiting and going to the intersection of Bassett and Kings Trail, making the right-hand turn and exiting out to Klein Road through Eastwick, which is a common occurrence.
Correct. That was not included.
So as we open that up, we do have the potential, and we should acknowledge that not all of the cars exiting that parking lot are going to the intersection of Red Oak and Bassett Hopkins intersection. We have traffic that is definitely moving through the residential neighborhood to access Klein Road.
There, again, I don't know if that occurs now, but if it does, yes, that could still continue to occur.
Or we could continue to, or we could be opening it up to more by opening up more access back there.
Again, but we're controlling it to eliminate it to a maximum of 170.
So we are controlling it to 170?
If you'd like us to. I mean, you expressed that concern, and what we're saying is if that's what you would like us to do, we're okay with that.
Is that what this, I guess I feel like I'm in a one person conversation with you right now.
We're willing to do that. We can limit it.
If it's going to be, it shouldn't be a problem on their end, because if it's the same 150, 170 people,
Keep the numbers.
yeah, if it's the same 100, I mean,
If they're using Eastwick now, then they're going to use it again. It'll be a net zero,
And
you know.
Chairman, again, we're not saying that everyone that parked at St. Greg's parking lot traveled north, but to a large degree, that's what they did because that was the most convenient for those particular employees that live to the north.
I'm not in favor of creating a gated access out of a hospital into a neighborhood. We have too many issues that come before this board, just thinking of this park school where you open this up and something happens down the road and we'll be down the road and it won't be a gated access anymore. We'll have other stuff going on. There's site plan restrictions that were in place in 2006 that were put in place to keep that a gated access from the hospital to a residential area. And I believe those should remain in place. That was a condition put in place in 2006.
And all I would ask is that a lot has changed since 2006. Again, it was no longer economically feasible to keep that lease in place with St.
We
Gregory's.
have residents that come before this board and complain about the speed of traffic on Bassett Road. We have
Sure,
residents that complain about the stop sign controls through the residential neighborhood. We've moved stop signs on Eastwick Road. We have traffic concerns on Klein Road. And everywhere we would go in this town, we have traffic concerns of cars moving through residential neighborhood. We have a building that is a hospital that's in a district where it is. So why do we want to open up the potential to commercial traffic from a hospital going through a residential neighborhood? It's restricted currently for a reason, and I see no reason that it should be opened up.
I guess all we're saying is we're moving traffic that was already doing that.
We're moving traffic.
And controlling it better than we were. We think we're actually improving
We're moving
it.
traffic today. We're putting a condition we're looking at a condition that was put in place in 2006 for 218 off-site parking spots. You're now coming to us and saying we're taking those away. We're replacing those 218 parking spots and we want relief because we now have an empty building for 82 parking spots. You have an empty building that's back there. You've closed a building back on Klein Road as an ambulatory center. So who's to say that Kaleida Health isn't going to come back here 6 months from now and say you want to reuse that building as an outpatient ambulatory care center? There's a gated community back there, and now you're asking for more access back there. Once we open the access to that road and we grant that, Kaleida Health can come back at any time and ask for more access through that area.
No, but
There's a restriction there that restricts it. It's restricted for a reason.
Well, again, we'd be comfortable with you making those as conditions, meaning
And you
if
were
they were ever to be
comfortable- and
revisited.
you were comfortable in 2006 with the restrictions that were put in place, and now you're asking for relief from them. So what stops you from coming before the board again in the future and asking for relief?
But the circumstance, it's different. In 2006, the condition that was imposed about parking at St. Gregory's, we never owned St. Gregory's. We never had a contract to acquire St. Gregory's. Unfortunately, after 20 years, that came to an end, and that's why we're here.
But
So
why did it
this-
come?
now
Why did it
remember
come? Why did it come to an end?
Because of the lease terms.
So when we come back here 2 years from now, you have different lease terms, different business needs on the property, and you're asking for further relief again.
No, I'm not, I didn't follow that point.
There was conditions that were put in place in 2006 that you're not in compliance with at this point, and you're asking for relief from those and looking to do something else.
Right, because we believe we have
And I'm
justification.
asking, basically what I'm saying is at any point in time, you can come before the board and ask for relief. And I'm saying that there were restrictions that were put in place in 2006 that were put in for a reason. They should remain in place. I'm not in favor of lifting the restrictions from a traffic safety standpoint. I'm not in favor of putting traffic from a hospital into a residential neighborhood.
Okay, and again, not to be argumentative, our position is just that we're just taking that traffic that's already there, St. Gregory's parking lot, moving it on site.
Okay, I will leave this to the rest of the
And
board.
also the other
I'm
thing
one,
I-
I'm
the
one,
other thing
I'm one person on the board. There's 8 others. I've made my point.
The other thing I do want to note is, again, we are controlling access. And if part of your recommendation was that we limit that to 170 employees, we're okay with that. Perfectly comfortable with that.
And you have to use the card to get in and to get out.
Yes.
Won't be a card. We're going to do the automatic thing.
Yeah, that's right.
So it looks like you placed some pedestrian accommodations to get from your leased spots to get to the hospital, those sidewalks. Are we removing those? Are we keeping those? Do they serve a purpose anymore? I'm just trying to,
I mean, I don't think we'll remove them. They're not on our site, but yeah, they're not going to serve the purpose they did.
I'm just trying to prevent any type of, patients or, employees parking there now as they were last year. What's being done there?
So we would probably propose to keep those walkways open. We do have clergy that come over to the hospital, that walk over to the hospital to see patients, and we also have patients and visitors and family that go to St. Greg's as well. So we would propose to keep those walkways open.
So did St. Greg's terminate the lease conditions or did Clyda?
Both parties.
The parties could not come to terms on a new lease agreement.
And while I don't want to get into the details, the amount that was going to need to be paid on a yearly basis became exorbitantly more. And while I'd prefer to keep this off the record, I guess I'll disclose it, because they needed that money for bankruptcy court. I mean, it was, that's a circumstance we didn't control.
As a parishioner of St. Greg's, and information that was shared with the parish, I would disagree with that highly, and I don't think that that's appropriate to be bringing into this conversation.
Well, that's my understanding.
Yeah, I want to be clear that they never indicated that they were raising the rent because of the bankruptcy issue whatsoever. It was not part of the conversation whatsoever. I assume it was because their costs went up, whatever it might be. I don't know, but they certainly did change the terms of the lease. And so I just want to point out that, again, I know we don't want to put cars out into neighborhoods. I take your point about that. And as a parishioner of St. Greg's, I certainly understand the concern. Those employees who were parking there already were going out and already had access to Bassett. So if anything right now, the traffic on Bassett is down because every employee has to exit out onto Maple. So I just want to be
And
clear that.
I would say that's fantastic.
And that's fine.
the way
And,
we should keep
and,
it.
and we would say that we would like to provide the access, which is why we have the application.
So from this point here, Chris, what are we looking for to send to planning? Do we need to say that we're in favor, opposition? I think we're in agreement that we would want it restricted to only 170 passes.
Correct.
With access to the gate.
What's before you is the relief of the conditions that Greg Dion outlined. So if there's, you've got options. You can approve them outright, you can deny, provide reasons for your denial, or you can condition it like limiting it to 170 or whatever that number might be, or provide other conditions that you have.
Well, I'll start off and I'll make the motion to deny relief of the conditions that were put in place in 2006. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We know what they are.
So the
Greg, you
conditions
want
in
to go over the
2006
conditions again?
The conditions in 2006 per Greg were that they were required to maintain chained access to Bassett Road for non-medical emergencies only, which would be fire and emergency response for an emergency at the hospital, not patient access, and that they were required to have 218 off-site parking spaces with the neighbor at St. Greg's.
Those were the conditions.
put in place in 2006. They're asking for relief of those conditions they're asking for relief of those conditions, and they're also asking for they're asking for relief of both of those conditions. They want to remove the chained access, emergency access to a gated access for employees, and they are looking for relief of the 218 off-site parking space requirement. I'm making the motion that this board make a recommendation to the planning board of a denial of those conditions of relief. And Kara, I believe, seconded. So any further conversation? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
I'll abstain.
So we have one no, one abstain, and
No.
I'm a
two
no.
abstain.
I'm a no.
Just do a roll call.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just say nay, abstain, or A. Max?
So hold on a second. If we're saying yay, that means that we are agreeing with no relief of site plans of
denial.
2006 conditions is a yay. No relief.
I don't think I'm allowed to vote.
And you can abstain. You can abstain.
Yeah, you can abstain.
I gotta abstain. I can't.
Sorry. Mr. Chairman, can you repeat again? If we say yay, we're,
The proposal is that we deny, the resolution is that we deny the relief of the site plan request. So we're denying their request. We're denying their request for site plan relief as a yay.
So I'll
I'll
go to
say yay.
Cynthia.
Cynthia says we deny
Okay.
the site plan relief.
Kara?
We deny. I am in agreement for denial.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Ryder?
Nay.
So you believe we should grant relief?
Oh, no, he believes it shouldn't be a denial.
It should not be a denial.
That's right.
Correct. Kevin?
I'm going to abstain.
Colleen? All right.
We got Nick.
Oh, Nick.
That's 4 nays.
Okay.
So motion fails.
Motion failed to outright denial.
Wait, I thought that was a motion. I'm confused now.
Okay, that was just that was a
I thought
motion.
that was to deny the motion to disapprove.
No, the motion was, you won. You won. You won. You won.
So now again, because that occurred, I don't want to leave out the possibility.
No, so we're going to address now as to what
Conditions.
Okay,
fair
the conditions. Yes.
That's
So
all I was
we
trying
need
to make sure.
motions of conditions at this point. I'll make a motion that if a gate is installed, it is limited to 170 employees.
I second that.
Parking at St. Greg's. So that's a second by Cynthia. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain.
I'm going to abstain again.
So we have 2 abstentions, so it passes 7-0. That we would recommend that there only be 170 passes granted to the gate being installed.
And the only thing I would note is, again, this is an important project, while it may not seem so. If any of you become aware of circumstances after this occurs that we should be aware of, let us know and we'll do our best to address them.
Who controls the property with that vacant medical center? The one that you're taking over their parking spaces?
The far north, it's on our site.
Okay, that's your building, it's a Kaleida building.
It is. It is.
So one other.
Okay, you're saying no one's ever going to use that building ever in
Well,
perpetuity?
right now it's gutted. What I'm saying is if and when it could get reused, and there are absolutely no plans whatsoever, that's going to trigger a need to reevaluate parking, per the chairman's comments. We understand that.
So also I want to put a condition in that the gate control be required to have both enter and exit controls.
Yeah,
And that's what we're proposing.
that's what they're proposing.
That's what they're proposing.
Yeah.
We just want it to be documented that it has on the record exit and enter controls.
We appreciate that.
So I think it would also be beneficial, I didn't see it on the site plan, like signage that said no, like, not employee that doesn't have access or a visitor goes up to that gate, is there any signage that says employees only or?
Absolutely, it will have to say employees only because, and we plan on putting that sign out pretty far so that we don't get anybody else.
Okay, yeah, I think it should be right at Bassett.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
You know, with advance notice.
It's the only place to put it.
Yes, we will add that, Chris.
Okay.
And do you need us to do anything, Chris, on the number of parking spaces on the relief from 218 down to 87?
No, because this board shouldn't be looking at parking calculations and, you know, that's not the purview of this board. It's traffic safety. So Daniel Latowski will be in touch with you, I'm sure, to discuss parking.
I believe Dan reached out to Dave today.
Okay.
Any other items? Can you just pull this out, the site plan a little bit further, Chris?
Sure.
So from that back parking lot, just looking at the site plan, we're parking cars. That's already been approved back there, the parking?
It has. That's the site plan that will expire in June of this year.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we will be renewing that as part
So
of
the
this.
only thing, so hold on. So the only thing that so when this was originally proposed, it was for a women's clinic of some kind to go into that building, was it not?
It was for the women's clinic is why that was proposed.
Yeah, it was for consolidation of leases for a women's clinic. Unfortunately, that just became cost prohibitive to rehab that building, and so we left the leases in place. And so therefore, that's why we've kind of delayed on the parking for now.
So
The new lot.
So the crosswalks and stuff that were put into that area were put in place based on patients parking there or employees parking there to access that building. So if we're installing this gate now and we're now calling that to be employee parking with the installation of the gate, we don't have sidewalk access on that road going around what would be on the bottom of the screen, Chris.
Yeah, I get it.
So we don't have
Saying, are there any pedestrian accommodations to get from this parking to the main hospital?
on that road. We don't have a sidewalk on that road on that side, and we have people.
You're correct. The one side does not, the other side does.
So Chris, can we go back to that plan?
Actually see it. So,
Sidewalks here to get to this building. But we don't have sidewalks extending down along this building to get up to the hospital. So we're saying that all the people are gonna have to walk around this building and around, or we're putting the people walking on MacArthur. There should be sidewalk installed in this stretch with that gate for people parking here to not have to walk all the way around the building. Pedestrian access in this section.
So.
We have no problem.
We have no problem putting the sidewalk in along with the project of installing the gates. Frankly, we were going to do it anyway because we recognized that that was an issue.
So what's before you now is the relief of the conditions. It's not site plan extension. Is that accurate, Greg and Sean? Like, I don't know if there's a way to ask for that as part of this.
They're adding the gate.
I think what we're hoping is when ultimately the pending application gets approved by the planning department or the planning board, that ultimately it will incorporate an extension of the originally approved site plan. So per the chairman's comment, if you want to make that as part of your recommendation for this project, we're fine with that.
Okay.
Meaning that'll ensure that would occur regardless of whether the parking gets installed.
Okay.
Which I think what you want, right?
Yes.
Sure, that's fine. Greg, correct me if I'm wrong in terms of.
No, I mean, if you guys are amenable to it and you guys want it, I don't think there's any harm in asking
Yeah.
it for it.
Yeah.
Take that.
And if you want to memorialize it as part of your recommendation, please go ahead and do so.
Yeah, can we memorialize that in our recommendation, Chris?
Yes.
Anything else on this item? All right, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to present this. Have a good evening.
Yep, you too. All right, yep, thank you. All right,
There's,
regular.
one more site plan for everybody.
One more site plan.
All right, I'm going to.
Hopefully when you're right there.
I know, but I want to talk.